I want to. I want to. I really want to come to that appointment today. The reality is I just can't. I'm too busy. I promise I'll come in the future. Whoa, how many times have you done that? How many times have you canceled something, whether it's an appointment, it might be for a massage, it might be for a, I don't know. Have you done it? Have you canceled something that was on your self-care list, something to do for you when you've put everything else before you and just gone, "Ah, I just can't, I can't, I can't, I can't." It's like, I know very much in Australia here anyway, and I've got listeners all around the world on this podcast, but it's like we were raised to look after everyone else before we look after ourselves. And it's just not cool. And what happens is us choosing, and it is a choice, us choosing to put whatever it is, whether it's work or the needs of someone else or whatever it is kind of thing ahead of us, just taxes us in so many ways, in particularly in ways of our self-esteem, in ways of the physical benefit we would have received by doing whatever it is, and the emotional benefit, and just the knowing that you are important enough to look after you. It's big, and it's a conscious choice that we do, but we're raised, particularly as women, to look after everyone else before we look after ourselves. And I say it's time to draw the line in the sand. Draw the line in the sand and live forward into what you want in life, not what you don't want in life. Now, there's a big difference. I choose to live forward into a strong, fit, healthy body so I can surf and do all the fun things I want to do, versus leading from today into a life where I don't want to get old and decrepit and have my body not work for me. Energetically, it's a totally different thing. And what I know is that, and I've talked about it on many podcasts, that what we think about, we bring about. What we think about, we bring about. So I talk about not feeding the monster. So even us choosing to put ourselves first and look after ourselves on a consistent basis is different energetically to us saying, that's it, screw you guys, I'm not going to look after you anymore, which means then gives you the time to look after yourself. Big difference. So we don't want to feed the monster, and we want to live our future out of our present. My absolute favorite saying in life is actually one by Anthony Robbins. And he says, nothing from your past has to influence your future unless you let it. So I choose, and I work with people when I coach them, to help them draw a line in the sand and live forward into what you want, not into what you don't want. So if in the past you haven't been looking after yourself and self-caring and self-soothing in whichever ways you've needed, we're not going to reflect back and go, oh, I screwed up and all those kind of things. No. We're simply going to move forward. Cool? Okay. So like I said, we're not going to feed the monster. We're going to just move forward in a positive way. So self-care means taking care of yourself so that you can be physically and emotionally healthy and have the reserves and coping skills to be able to deal with and enjoy life. Well, that's what I believe its definition is anyway. Today, I'm going to share 9 hacks with you on ways that I consciously self-care on me. Does that make sense? And self-soothe. So they are, let's jump in. Number 1 is dedicating 15 minutes a day to you. 15 minutes a day to you. In my book, The 7 Steps to Sanity, I talk about how 15 minutes is 1% of your day. So what is 1%? 15 minutes that you could do. It's a step to start with, at least 15 minutes a day, just to do something for you. Now, I know if you've got kids and cats and all those things, it may feel like it has to be 15 1-minute blocks. I promise you can carve out 15 minutes just for you. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is to be gentle with yourself. Seriously, the way that I definitely did it when I was younger, but the way that I see people talking to themselves and giving themselves a hard time is just not cool. You wouldn't talk to a little child like that. Well, I hope you wouldn't. But you wouldn't. And yet we give ourselves such a hard time. It's not cool. You know, if little Johnny's learning to play basketball and he misses the first 3 hoops, you don't go, no, you're a bloody loser. Get out of there. You're screwed. You're stuffed. That's it. You'll never be any good at basketball. You go, come on, Johnny, you can do it. You can do it. You encourage and lift him up. That's what we need to do with ourselves. We need to be gentle with ourselves and encouraging to ourselves. Number 3 is JOMO. JOMO. We know about FOMO. FOMO is the fear of missing out. JOMO is the joy of missing out. It's all about learning to say no. Now, the very first point of the 7 steps to sanity is to learn to say no. Be okay with not being at everything and doing everything. It's so important. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I feel obliged to do it or because I truly want to do it? That's the measure for me. I choose to not do things out of obligation. Total different response to my body. I only do the things that I choose to do. I do. And if it's something that doesn't bring me as much joy as some other things do, I still get my head around it that I'm 100% happy to do it or 100% happy not to do it. The JOMO is real. Fall in love with the joy of missing out and saying no to some things. Some things. You don't have to say no to it all, but say no to some of it. I promise. It's such a power move to just be okay with not doing everything. And that's coming from someone who I had my, kind of like my identity and my significance was so much about the fact that when I was younger that I could just do everything. Well, we don't have to do everything. Number 4 is to be realistic. I am a realistic idealist. I am the most idealistic rose-colored world person on the planet. And at the same time, I am firmly planted on the ground so I can live into my ideal world in a way that it doesn't burn me out. Okay. So even if I think of my surfing, for instance, taken up surfing in the last 6 years. I am an intermediate surfer. And in my ideal world, I know in the future I will nose ride my board and do all these cool things on my surfboard. But being realistic at the moment, I need to learn the skills and be okay with where I'm at. So I'm firmly grounded. I turn up every day. I do my practices, all those things. I still hold that idealistic. I know visually, I know the vision of how I'll surf in the future. And right now, I'm not stressing out about the fact that I can't surf like that yet. So I choose to be what I call a realistic idealist. Number 5 is we want to make sleep a priority. We have to. There's no way we can deal with life if we're running on empty. It just has to, it has to be the way it is. Our body needs to be able to rest and recharge properly physically, but emotionally, when we're not feeling stretched, we will deal with things so much better. I'll put a link in the show notes to the very first podcast I did in my Healthy Life Hacks, and that was all about sleeping and burnout. So I'll drop that in there so that you can go and have a listen. Number 6 is to eat right for you 80% of the time, 80% of the time, not 100% of the time. If 100 is going to bring you stress, don't do it. 80% of the time, what I know is that 80% of lifestyle imbalances will be prevented if you live within that boundary 80% of the time. Eat close to nature the majority of the time. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes to the most relevant podcast on exactly that, on how to work out your eating plan of a day. Number 7 is that we need to move our body daily. Now, yes, that's for our health, as in, heart health and lung health and retaining body muscle, all those kind of things. But it's also about channeling emotions. So often when we're in overwhelm, everything's too much, just going for a walk. You don't even have to flog yourself out there going for a big run, but doing something physical to move our body helps to manage stress as well. Number 8 is to find your tribe. Find your people that will lift you up, that they inspire you and are there for you when you need that. Surrounding yourself with people that lift you up is a self-care strategy. Find your tribe. For me, my surfing tribe is absolutely it. I hang with them in advance because I know the benefit of feeling safe and nurtured with them, and we all lift each other up so that if something does get me, I know I can either call on them or I know I've got enough reserves in my tank to be able to deal with what's going on. Number 9 is to self-soothe and nurture. Like seriously, even just giving yourself a big hug. Physically, I'm doing it right now if you're listening to this on the podcast, but wrapping your arms around yourself nice and tight and giving yourself a hug and just breathe deeply through your nose. Just take it in. 2 or 3 breaths can be enough to take the edge off and bring you back and be grounded so you can deal with whatever's going on. That's it. It doesn't have to be big, lengths of time to self-care. However, it needs to be part of your day-to-day life strategy, because the reality is so many people are running what they see as time poor nowadays. Bring strategies in so that you don't put yourself at the bottom of the list when you are tight for time. That's all I ask. So the healthy life hack for this episode is simple. Find, say, 3 of the hacks that I've listed and start there. Do them consciously daily and build from there. So it might be that you're committing to move your body every day, to go for a walk or go for a run or something. It might be that you're going to say no to one thing, just one thing every day, one little thing that's asked of you. You're going to say no. It might be that you're going to make your sleep your priority. It might be going to eat close to nature 80% of the time. It might be that you're going to set an alarm on your phone and hug yourself a few times a day. What is it? The healthy life hack for this month is simply find 3 of those hacks that I listed and start there and build on them and start making you a priority, because I know the value in that for your physical health, your emotional health, and for your sanity. If you want to check out the show notes, head over to healthylifehacks.com.au and I will put direct links to the couple of podcasts that I talked about on this show.